This is like my fourth time trying to do this. I tried to do it on Zoom. It didn't work. I couldn't think of another way to do it. So this is my best bet. Anyway, I was a little confused on this assignment, so I kind of just picked one of the 4 artists that we were given and made a PowerPoint on them. I also have a cold right now, so sorry if I start coughing or sneezing. So I chose Paul Rand. I'm most familiar with him out of all the ones that we were given, and I gravitated more towards his designs than the other ones after looking at the portfolios. So hang on, I'll bring you in a little closer and scooch it that way a little bit. There we go. Okay, I'll be back like right here. Anyway, after doing some research on Paul Rand, I learned quite a bit. So, he was born He was born August 15th, 1914 in Brooklyn. And at a young age, he embraced art, but his father did not believe that art could give him a sufficient livelihood. So his father required him to attend Heron High School, but at the same time he was doing that, he also attended Pratt Institute. He was considered a self-taught designer because he learned from European magazines, especially one that I don't know how to pronounce. It's a German one, really long word. Excuse me. But not other than Pratt, he also attended Parsons School of Design and the Art Student League of New York. One of his longing influences was from modernist philosophy, which is pretty interesting considering that his art does not look like this a whole lot. But he also had an underlying connection to from Impressionism to pop art, for like example Duchamp and his urinal, mostly for the sake because artists have a problem with, not a problem, but they take something ordinary and turn it into something like worth being art, like Duchamp turning a urinal into art, which is still weird. So these are just some of his early designs. I know it's hard to see them, especially the one in the middle, because all you see is the reflection of my screen. I'll bring you in a little bit. It's just a line drawing like that. But at an early age, he had a part-time job creating stock images. And during that time, he was able to grow his portfolio to not even what it is now, probably half of what it is now. And also around this time when he was creating his portfolio, he decided to not change his name, but camouflage it so it didn't, because his name sounded overly Jewish, his original name, what he was born with, which was Peretz Rosenbaum. I may be butchering it, but it's an overly Jewish name, and he wanted to camouflage it, so he shortened his forename to Paul, and he took Rand from an uncle, creating Paul Rand, which is what we know him by. Out of everything he's done, he's most famous for his corporate logos that he created in the 1950s and 1960s, but his page design was his initial source of his reputation. And at a young age, he earned a full-time job, as well as an offer to be an art director for the Esquire Coronet magazine, because of his talent for transforming mundane photographs into dynamic compositions that were very interesting. At first, he refused the offer because he believed he was not at a level to accept, but eventually he did take it. And he took over the magazine's the responsibilities of the magazine's fashion pages. And he was only 23 when he did that, which is crazy to think about because I'm around that age, and it would be weird thinking that I could have a job as an art director of a magazine right now. Like that's a big responsibility. I can't even take care of myself. Swiss Design, which is, after looking at his portfolio, majority of his stuff is Swiss Design. A lot of it is. But Rand is credited as one of the artists being responsible for bringing the Swiss style of his design into the United States, which I think is pretty cool. But excuse me. After looking at his portfolio, a lot of his designs that I've noticed, mostly his cover books, like this, they had the simplistic of like the shapes, colors, and like the placement of the words. It's a very basic font. So then it's not overtaking the design of the actual cover and stuff. These are just some other ones. I'm really sorry for the quality of this presentation. So sorry. Excuse me. These are some of his most popular designs and like most recognizable. Mostly the ABC logo for TV. This Cummins logo that I have seen places. I don't know on what though. I just know I've seen it. Same with the Ford one. His IBM one. This logo is pretty popular, but it's mostly the one that has the I, the B, and then the M. The old UPS logo that they used, I believe, until 2013. Don't quote me on that. And then the Westinghouse one. How does his work impact me? I would say that it doesn't impact me as much as like other artists, but I think what impacts me most about it is how simplistic it is, and that me personally, I don't really see a whole lot of simplistic designs around. A lot of them are like really intricate, or they have like a really fancy font, like typeface for everything. I think in that way it impacts me. Like, it makes me feel not very dumb looking at it because it's so simple that I can figure it out. And if I can figure it out, other people can. That doesn't sound like the right answer for that question, but it sounded right to me. Sorry. These are just some of his simplistic designs, which this one's my favorite that I found. It's called Red Heart Beige Circle. It looks like a bagel, but I really like it. I also just like the name of it. Why was his work so effective? I think it was so effective based on how simple it is, and that it was something, I wouldn't say new in the US or like new in art, but I think it was just so effective mostly for the part because of how simple it was around that time, and that a simple design can go a long way when trying to get like something across. I'm gonna bring you nice and close. This is the IBM logo. It just took me a minute to realize what it was when I first saw it a few years ago. I'm like, what's that supposed to mean? But for effectiveness on his art, I think all of his pieces are effective in their own special way, especially his creepy horse that was on an earlier page. And then, would graphic design be the same? I say no, it wouldn't. Because in my eyes, after looking at his portfolio, it made me realize that not everything I make has to be super intricate, that something so simple like this can go a long way. And like in this, mostly I don't think it would be the same because what he did was so effective for not only like designers but for like other people who aren't artists in that sense. Meaning like if you were to see one of his designs on a billboard, you would know what it is compared to seeing like a super intricate one on a billboard, Because when you drive past billboards, most of the time you're flying down the freeway at 80 miles an hour. And if something's super intricate, you won't have enough time to look at it and figure out what it is. So a simple design like what he did would be more effective in that way. Because if you're flying down the freeway, you glance at the billboard and it's just like this dude, the IBM, you'd be like, IBM, yes. Compared to like something super intricate and super detailed. So I don't think it would be the same because of the impact that he had on artists, showing that the simplest design can go the longest way, from like basic colors to basic shapes and like a basic layout. So this is just some more like simple logos that he did that I kind of liked. But that's the end. And I am terribly sorry for the way this presentation turned out. I tried to do it on Zoom like 3 times, and every single time it only recorded like 12 seconds before I started to share my screen. And I asked my roommates for help, and neither of us could figure it out. So this is what I was left with. So sorry for the quality of this, but I hope this suffices. Bye.